Greetings ladies and gents, welcome back to the Craft Hammer. I'm your host Stefan, and in today's video we're going to be looking at number 2 out of 3 for my Space Marines collection. More specifically, we're going to be looking at what was supposed to be the generic portion of my homebrew chapter, which has evolved to being the full Templar army that I have at the moment. If you are curious, I did already post the Blood Angels Army Showcase, which had all the models that are not here and not the HQ or metal models. So if you are curious, make sure to check that out. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You'll get plenty of more noob content, and we will be eventually going to more tournaments. And as I've mentioned before, the Templar list will be built and increased with some actual Crusader and Sword Brethren models so that I could attend some 2000 point games and hopefully win maybe a grand tournament in 2025. That is the goal. So as I just said, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, it really helps me out. We will be looking at everything that is Templar themed. You will see some of the first models that I built when I first came back to the hobby as an adult. Some of the more recent ones when it comes to the Terminators here. A little project that I think worked out really nicely. And of course, a huge Blade Guard squad that I am such a big fan of. Now, everything here is fully painted and varnished. There are obviously certain Crusader squads and Sword Brethren in my painting block. They are built. I have, I think, another squad to add to the Crusaders, and hopefully that will kind of round out the army as a whole. And I will probably need to add a Dreadnought and a vehicle. I'm thinking of the Gladiator. Hopefully that will give me plenty of options, but those are not here because there's no point in showing you grey models. We want to show off the cool paint job that I managed to get these all in. For those of you who are curious, yes, these are supposed to be Black Templars, but of course, because it's my homebrew chapter, they are red with grey shoulder pads and then gold trim. There are some slight deviations. For example, the Terminators do have a black shoulder pad, just so that the decals stand out nicely, and of course a bit of yellow among them, which I might, going forward, add a bit more yellow guns and chainswords just to add some hazard stripe on the chainswords. So it won't be exactly the same going forward, but it should roughly look like this, and they will be using the Black Templar rules. I do have some of the actual named HQs, which are not yet fully painted, but they will again be joining this force in the scheme that I have here. So a similar thing as before, I will set this up so that I will give you some close-ups of everything that we have here, and then I'll pick out a few models and just chat about them, what I did and how I got them to my collection. If you are curious, I did have a small little story in my Blood Angels video where I talked about how I intended to come back into the hobby with Imperial Fists, but then I was confused whether I should add some Templars. I also had Blood Angels models that were kind of in storage, and I decided that I'll have a homebrew chapter with Templar specific units, Blood Angel specific units. So if I was wanting to play a generic force, I could, or if I wanted to go for one of the other chapters, I could then just sub in and it would be easy, fit, like, slot it in and off I go. Now, if you've jumped into this video and haven't seen the other one, you will not see any HQ characters here. I want to create one video for that because I already know that I've been rambling too much in my Blood Angels one, and that will be a long video. This will also likely be slightly longer, just that we're going to go through everything. And next week we will have one where we have the metal models in my collection, and we have all the heroic models, HQs, characters, etc. So those will be next week, which will include both Blood Angels and the Templars and generic Marines, so stay tuned for that as well. For now, let me switch things around. I will get these kind of pushed back a bit and we'll go through each one of them and have a little chat about this collection. So give me 2 minutes and I'll see you in a bit. Let's start off with another quick panning around like we did in the first video. And from left to right we have 2 10-man tactical squads. And on the right of them we have 2 10-man assault marines. And just behind them we have a good old Predator, one of my favorite vehicles. Going to the right at the back we have a squad of 3 aggressors, 3 obliterators, and a 5-man squad of terminators, which you might remember from the somewhat disastrous tournament that we had in November. Check out that video if you want to see how I did not manage to win anything and it went really badly. And of course, down here to the right we have a 12-man squad of Blade Guards, which are some of my most favorite Primaris models that they've released. And we have a little project here. Hopefully you can see it. I'll get into more details on what these guys are, but they will likely be a squad of Sword Brethren proxied in with power weapons. So this is the force itself. Let's get into some details of some of these models, bit of a discussion, and then yeah, we'll see where we go there. So we have a small story time going from the left with all the older models. When I was a teen, I really liked the Mark III Space Marine armor pattern that was available on Forge World, but of course that was far too expensive for me to be able to collect them. So when I came back and started to look into Warhammer again, I didn't realize that they had made Mark III in plastic. And since I am of an older mindset where you need to have and start your collection with 2 troop choices and a HQ character, of course I had to buy some plastic Mark III, and of course I also got a HQ. But these 20-man tactical squads, obviously they are 2 10-man squads. These were the very first troops that I wanted for my new force. So 2 10-man tactical squads of Mark III power armor. I think they look great going in the future if the tactical squad does eventually get phased out. To be honest, it's not like it's the ideal way of playing. They aren't the best in comparison to their Primaris rules. So future-wise, these will likely be played as Primaris intercessors, but until then, we do have some Templar-themed tactical squads. The helmets and the shoulder pads, they are custom made. I didn't make them, obviously, I bought them, but I did get Templar-themed ones, which look great. And overall, I think the squads are really like thematic and also striking when you see them on the table. Obviously when you're taking video it isn't the best way to capture the models. It's always better to see them in person, but I am quite happy with how these guys turned out. Now on a similar mindset, I did get another 2 boxes so that I could create some Assault Marines, and I believe this was intended that Assault Marines could be taken as troop choices, if I remember correct, for Blood Angels. So I think that's kind of the reason why I decided to do this. Now as you can see, they are definitely a bit more custom than the previous Tactical Marines. So the shoulder pads, the chain swords are also custom and they have like an eagle design. The pistols that they all have are also custom. It's kind of a Western style revolver bolt pistol. Different helmets in comparison to the tactical squads. These ones have like an open mouth grill to make them look like they're sort of screaming. Obviously not like massively, but that's the intent there. And if I remember correct, I do believe that the backpacks are also custom Templar ones. The point of these guys were that I would get 2 rhinos, put them in there, and they would be shot up the field. Not like your normal Assault Marines that have the backpacks. I'm not entirely sure why I wanted them to be foot slogging, but I just thought that they looked really cool. And yeah, I guess these are my Assault Marines that I need to get some rhinos, which I will probably get Horus Heresy ones, just because they would look nicer than your normal ones, and use them for that. But for now, they will just be a nice little addition to my collection. Now, the Predator with the Venerable Dreadnought were probably my first two vehicles that I got when I returned to the hobby. I did get this custom plate that I believe also came with these skull lights. I think you can get these from Wayland Games. I can't remember the actual company that makes them. Either Cromlech or possibly Spellcrow. I can't particularly remember, but I thought it looked really nice with the skeleton and of course the skulls here. Overall, nothing too fancy, just a basic Predator tank. And of course we did add recently some little decals just to make it stand out a bit. Hopefully you can see the one on this side. But yeah, I'm quite happy with this tank. It has been fairly effective in some games, as long as it doesn't get fully targeted. Obviously it does not have that many wounds, but overall it is able to do some decent firepower when it is not being targeted, that's for sure. So very happy with this tank and how it fits into my overall collection. Now the next two squads I thought I would just do together. I did give them a little showcase during the November tournament recaps, so if you're curious to see two more models, I guess go back to that video. But they're not, that different from each other. On the left we have an aggressor. I believe this is the sergeant model, and this is the slight deviation that I was talking about. I decided to paint the helmets for these guys blue to kind of be similar to the fact that in the Blood Angels, if I remember correctly, the heavy support have blue heads, while the Assault Marines have yellow, and the normal troops have red, and I think veterans have gold. So I kind of tried to do a similar thing here where I have some of my heavier units with blue. Hopefully, if I do get more, which I do plan for the aggressors, I actually have another box of these in the backlog. This particular squad is in fact the old blue models that came from, I think it's the Dark Imperium box. It is, was it 8th or 7th edition? I wasn't actually around, but I did get them second hand and added them to my collection just because obviously they were so much cheaper than getting a brand new squad, so that's why I got them. But I also just want to have 6 overall because I just think they look pretty cool. At the moment, not the best rules wise, but model wise I think they look pretty badass. And the Obliterators, if I remember correct, these were from the Indomitus box set, because I haven't actually bought a box of these guys. And as you can see, we do have, these aren't custom shoulder pads fully, they're actually little additions that you can put on top of existing shoulder pads, since these ones came with pre-molded shoulder pads onto the actual arms, hence why they just got these little toppers. But yeah, that is the heavy support that are now part of my Templars. So let's move on to the next ones. As previously mentioned, if you've been keeping up with my tournament recaps, you would have seen these Terminators that are from the recent Leviathan box. Well, not so recent anymore. And yeah, I really liked how these turned out. Gave them Mark III helmets just so that they would look cooler. I do have another squad that are built but not painted with a similar fashion that they have Mark III helmets and some other interesting backpack gear. These are the ones that did get black shoulder pads just so that I could make the decals stand out a bit more. They also got some little shield here decals and some on their legs with the skulls, and each one of them that has a power fist also has this symbol on it. Of course the sergeant has a sword, but I have been playing him as having a power fist when it comes to proxying. Quite happy how these guys came out. I think they are some of my most favorited painted ones that I have so far, and I'm looking forward to getting the second batch of them fully painted up and yeah, seeing how they function as a squad of 10. Mostly the most thematic Terminators that I've made so far. And yeah, let's move on to the next ones. Now you may have seen a huge squad of 12 Blade Guard veterans. I do have the 3 original ones that came from, was it Indominus if I remember correct? And the one on the left here is in fact from that set, with an additional pop-on for his shoulder pad, since they're kind of molded in, while the one on the right is from the boxes that I bought, and I did magnetize the shields to the backpack if their pose did not have one holding it. And the reason why I bought 3 more boxes, first of all, the Primaris when I first came back were very bland until Indominus came out and gave us these amazing sculpts, which I fell in love with, and I wanted to make sure that I had every single variation for the Blade Guard, so you pretty much have every single pose that you can get from that box if I remember correctly. I think I have every single one of them, hence why I've got 12 overall, with the new ones of course having their own custom Templar shoulder pads, which I think look really well, and I gave them gold helmets to symbolize their veteran status. The loincloths aren't the best painted. This was before I kind of had it all figured out when it came to painting some of the more veteran units, and I would like to eventually go back and put some decals here on these little shields. For some of them have little skulls or whatever else, but not all of them. Some of them do have kind of an empty space that I might just put a little sticker there. So yeah, we got 12 of them and I'm super happy with how they turned out. I think they look great and they're really thematic. So let's move on to the last little section that I have. Now the last models that we have here are a custom little project that I did where I got 2 captains and 2 lieutenants from the Indominus box set, the ones that had the shields, and obviously they were very cheap since there were so many of them. And then I also got the chaplain, which is this guy, and I do have some Terminators, or like the Blood Angel specific themed Terminators, which are built with the hammers and are currently on the painting block, so those are still in process. But I took their lightning claws and gave it to these guys and created my own sort of, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what I created. It was just a cool idea where we had 5 of these Primaris bodies that have the lightning claws, since I do think they should have definitely included more lightning claws into the Primaris build. I know they've included those small thin ones in the Sword Brethren squad, but I do like the original older ones that have massive, you know, fists attached to them. Most likely I will probably proxy these guys as a 5-man squad of Sword Brethren with power weapons, since they do have the same base width, they are roughly the same size, and yeah, I don't think I need to worry about the actual claws themselves being, you know, seen as claws, so I'll just play them as power weapons. So that was the overall Templar army that I have. As I mentioned before, if you're looking for the HQ characters and of course some of my metal model collection, that will be next week's video, where it will round off the entire Space Marine force that I have, which is currently built and painted and varnished. Of course, I still have some things in the backlog that I intend to build and paint so that I could have a Templar force for tournaments. But until then, stay tuned for next week's video where we look at the hero characters. Most likely that will be a longer video, since I will be looking at more like each model individually so that you're able to see all the details. Until then, don't forget to subscribe so you're notified when that comes out. Give us a like on this video, it really helps us out. Maybe drop us a comment on what you thought about the models that you saw here. Again, I will try and take some photos and put them up on my Instagram so that I have more updated photos, since I have a better camera that I can do. I do have these in the Instagram with my old phone that was taking photos for them, but hopefully I will get that updated. And until next week, I'll see you then, folks, so take care.